Hello and welcome to another episode of TV on TV. I'm State Representative Tommy Vitolo. You're watching Brookline Interactive Group. Today is Thursday, June 24th. And like every week, we got a great episode. We've got Chi Wu coming up later. She is the co-founder of the Brookline Asian American Family Network, and she's also very active in local government. Great interview, pre-recorded. You're going to love it. But first, as always, the news. In national news, on Tuesday, the Republicans filibustered the We the People Act, a voting rights bill that would expand and hold some very important voting rights. But the Republicans weren't interested. And on a 50-50 vote, it is 10 votes short of breaking the filibuster. Obamacare won in the Supreme Court yet again. That was a 7-2 vote. And hey, like at some point it becomes a dynasty, right? That's at least 3 Supreme Court wins. Here in Massachusetts, the number of people hospitalized due to COVID-19 has fallen to 100, which is remarkably low, considering that number peaked at 4,000 in April 2020. You'll recall we had temporary hospitals set up in sites across the Commonwealth. So that's really great news. And you know why? Because vaccines work. Massachusetts has hit the governor's goal of 4.1 million people fully vaccinated, and quite a few more have gotten one of the double dose from one of the 2 vaccines that are 2 doses. If you are not vaccinated, please get vaccinated. If you need help getting vaccinated, call me, 617-872-8921. I'm happy to help. We need to get every last person vaccinated who can be, and that's really important for all of us. The governor also proposed yesterday to use some of the $3.9 billion surplus to create a 2-month sales tax holiday. I'm on record as suggesting that's a terrible idea. We have people who need help with housing. We have transit problems that could benefit from more investment. We certainly could invest more in education, public health. There's so many places where I think we could spend the money better than giving people 6.25% off their purchases at the mall. But the House and the Senate and the governor are going to figure that out over the next few months. We do have a surplus, and it will be interesting to see how we're able to allocate those funds to help people. Here in Brookline, officials are asking adult residents to take a survey on vaccine literacy. If you Google Brookline Department of Public Health, you'll find it right there on the homepage. Lars Anderson skating rink was damaged beyond repair. And so the Department of Public Works is thinking through what to do now. They can repair it on site. They could build a new skating rink somewhere else. They could say, nobody likes to ice skate anymore. Lots of options. I'm not sure how it will go. I have no doubt that your opinion would be appreciated. And speaking of appreciation, I want to express some appreciation for Janelle O'Neill, who put together a fantastic inaugural Brookline Juneteenth celebration. And I have no doubt it will become an annual event. I know many people helped out, and they deserve recognition as well. But thank you, Janelle, for making sure that it happened in our town. And I was there, and I'm grateful that I was. Without any further ado, we're going to go right over to the pre-recorded interview with Chi Wu, the co-founder of the Brookline Asian American Family Network. See you on the flip side. And as promised today on Brookline Interactive Group, we've got Chi Wu, who wears many hats, but I guess I'll introduce her as a member of the steering committee and co-founder of the Brookline Asian American Family Network, BAAFN. Chi, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me, Tommy. It's a delight to be here.
As everyone knows, or maybe most people know, we film on Zoom, and that's sort of a COVID protocol, and it's awfully convenient sometimes. one of the consequences is sometimes it's a little laggy. I get the sense tonight we might be a little laggy, so I hope you'll bear with us if it can be a little slow here and there, but we're all doing the best that we can. Chi-Chi, the first question I generally ask folks, and there's a lot of room to answer any way you want, is like, what have you been doing from birth until now? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So first of all, thank you again for having me, and I'm hoping the internet gods give us stable Wi-Fi tonight. So let's see, what from birth till now. Well, I'm going to fast forward the early years and say I am a lawyer by training, so we'll start somewhere in the 1990s when I graduated from law school. Spent a few years in DC and moved to Brookline in 1993. Worked at a few different places, Greater Boston Legal Services, Attorney General's office, before landing at the National Consumer Law Center, where I've been a staff attorney for 20 years. I had a kid who is a graduate of Pierce School and Brookline High School, so a big fan of the public schools of Brookline. And I, as a result of being a big fan of the public schools of Brookline and also realizing that Brookline has a fairly significant Asian American population, especially in the schools. We are now 1 in 5 students in the Brookline public school systems. Myself and some other folks decided to get together and form a parent group called the Brookline Asian American Family Network. Started in about 2009, got really active in 2011. So I guess we're officially 10, 12 years old. And that's my side gig.
And tell us a little bit about some of the things that BAAFN does, both maybe inside the schools and also more community facing.
So we're probably best known for our community or public facing events. Our big one is the Lunar New Year celebration. Every February, we have this wonderful celebration in the high school, in the atrium, in the MLK room, and there's food, lots of food. One of the things about BAAFN is we do a lot of things involving food. It's a thing, most people like it, so we have food, we have performances, arts and crafts. It's a great event for the kids. Last year we had it virtually, of course, because of COVID. But actually this past year we had it, February 2021, we had it virtually because of COVID. But the years past have been in person, and we're hoping to do it in person again next year. The other big event we have is May is Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month. And we have an event every May to celebrate that. As part of that, we also give out awards for our essay contest. So every year for the past 6-7 years, we've held an essay contest for high school students in Brookline. The theme is what it means to be Asian American. And we get lots of submissions and we judge them. We have award winners, and the essays are really incredible. The young people who write them, they're just really heartfelt, beautiful works. And the last one was virtual, the award ceremony. So if you have a chance, it's somewhere on the big website, you can actually see the essay winners recite their essays. And it was really just touching to hear them, because they reflected on what's been a tough year for the Asian American community in Brookline and nationally because of anti-Asian racism, stoked by blame on China for the COVID-19 pandemic, and of course our former president stoking a lot of that resentment and anger. A lot of folks probably heard about the shootings in Atlanta, for example, and that's what our community's dealt with. So, so getting back to what we do, we have this essay contest, and we have an event. we do a lot of advocacy. So that's the public facing activity. And then, we do a lot of activity, a lot of advocacy with the schools, with this, superintendent, the principals. This year has been especially active because of the anti-Asian racism that I mentioned earlier. We really wanted to do something to try to head that off or lessen or prevent some of that once the students went from remote to going back in the building. And so some of my fellow steering committee members worked on a video curriculum to address anti-Asian racism. There was a version rolled out in the high school. It's being retooled right now because there were some hiccups. But we're also developing a version for the middle schools. So that's one of the things we've been doing as well. And then, we advocate for more teachers of color and Asian American teachers because, certainly the number of Asian American teachers and staff isn't proportional to the number of students. And we'd like to see more Asian American teachers and, more Asian American studies curriculum so that students know about the history of our community and what we've gone through in this country. So I've given you an earful. I should stop and see if you have some follow-up questions.
No, it's quite a lot. And of course, I don't think you explicitly mentioned the Family Network also held a Stop Asian Hate rally in front of the high school in the days following the Atlanta shooting, I think to really drive home that, yes, there was a horrific tragedy in Atlanta, but it reverberated throughout, including in our community. And so that was another example of something that BAAFN has done. What about internally, support for new or longtime Asian families or support for students in the schools? Is there also a more internal component, or is it just these sort of public events?
So certainly our mission statement is that we were formed to support the needs of Asian and Asian American students and their families in the Brookline school. So that is core to our mission. And the way we do that is around advocacy, around the needs of the overall community. So, as I mentioned, one of the big pushes we have is to increase the number of Asian American teachers and staff in the schools. And the way we've done that is, talking to the superintendent, talking to the high school principal, but also, for example, last year, because of some of the budgetary issues that were caused by COVID, there was a big issue with layoffs, and then 3 kindergarten teachers of color were bumped because they didn't have professional status, and they were bumped by teachers who did and had to move because of cuts. And so we organized a petition and a lot of activism around trying to preserve those teachers' jobs. And ultimately, unfortunately, we did lose one of those teachers, but 2 stayed within the system. Another way we try to support Asian American students and their families is just to have a place to share information and concerns. We have a listserv, and I think we have close to 500 people on the listserv right now. And if any of the viewers would like to join the listserv for BAAFN, I'm gonna take an example and a page from your book, and this is the email address for BAAFN. Did I do this wrong? Is it going to show
that's right.
backwards?
It's BAAFN1
at Gmail. Yeah, so it's BAAFN1 at gmail.com. I guess I should have written that backwards so that the camera would get
No,
think of that.
we see it correctly. We see it correctly.
All right.
You see the mirror image for yourself, but we see it correctly.
Okay, so email that address if you want to join the listserv. We also have a Facebook page, so just look up BAAFN on Facebook. And, it's a place for people to share issues and concerns. The other day, we had a really nice exchange of emails of some community members who wanted to book recommendations about the Asian American experience. We also have a website. And I didn't write that one down. Sorry, I should have thought that one. But it's just look up Google BAAFN. We have a website, and there's a ton of resources. Our webmasters, Linda Louie, and she has put a bunch of stuff on that. And we have one-off events sometimes to support the Asian American community. So we've had events about the mental health needs of Asian American students, which is an issue that just always needs more attention because there's such a stigma around mental health needs in the Asian American community. And we really need to do more to support the mental health needs of our students, especially after this year of COVID-19. It's been a very terrible year for the students generally and for Asian American students.
And so what should we expect coming up? Do you have any big plans, any one-off events coming up, or should we just, hold the line and wait for February for the Lunar New Year?
So we don't have any events coming up until the Lunar New Year. One of the things that viewers can do, though, is that I forgot to mention the display boards. So my fellow steering committee member, Alicia Shu, who's been doing most of the work, I can't claim credit. She's been doing most of the work dealing with curriculum and advocacy in the schools. And she organized parents in each of the elementary schools to create these wonderful display boards, these very, very large. I have to stretch my hand out like this. I think they're like 4 by 6 feet display boards of prominent Asian Americans, both nationally and locally. And each of the schools had one. And then after AAPI Heritage Month, she and the Office of Diversity, Inclusion, and Community Relations, and the ever wonderful Caitlin Starr, who supports so many of these activities around town, got them placed different areas in town. So there's one in Town Hall, there's one in the Public Health Building, there's one in the Coolidge Corner Theater. And so folks can look those up and take a look at them in person. They're just really wonderful to see. And Remote Learning Academy had a virtual one, and there's a link to that on our website.
Well, as I said, you wear many hats in addition to your professional activities and your BAAFN activities. More recently, you've become a volunteer on several boards, committees, commissions, and so forth. Reimagining Policing, the Advisory Committee, Town Meeting. That's a lot to bite off. Tell us about sort of how you decided to start spending more time directly working on local government issues and not just community issues, and how you landed where you did.
So that's correct. I have started getting more involved in town issues, and I blame Select Board member Dr. Ralph Fernandez, who dragged me onto the task force for reimagining policing. It's been a wonderful experience, really working with him and the other task force members. They're all really incredible, smart people. And it was just very, we've had a lot of reimagining and a lot of work. We put together a fantastic report, and it's led to real changes. For example, just last week, the Select Board voted to take the school resource officers out of the schools, the walk and talk unit, where the town is entering into a consulting contract with this organization called Cahoots, from Eugene, Oregon, to figure out a better way to do social services and crisis response than sending armed police officers in. So, I do federal advocacy, and federal advocacy often takes years and years and years, and it's very frustrating because you spend all this time putting together reports and meetings and media, and you see changes take years. And so it was really gratifying to work on something and then see changes made really quickly. And that, I guess, is the advantage of working on the local level. We're able to, implement some of the reimagining right away. And so that was gratifying. And working with the town of Brookline is just full of incredibly smart, thoughtful, hardworking folks willing to volunteer lots of time to the town. And so because of that experience, I was asked to join advisory committee. And when I joined advisory, I thought, well, I might as well see about joining town meeting. So now I'm on town meeting. It's a lot of work. I have to say that this town runs on and benefits from so much volunteer time. I mean, the amount of time people put in, it's pretty incredible. But it is very gratifying to do it. And, I have to say, part of it was just, getting an entree and being asked and then getting to know the folks who are active. Being virtual did help. I mean, I have to say, things like advisory committee take up a lot of time. And so it helped that we were on Zoom because it's 2 days a week, 2 evenings a week. And so it is funny though, being with folks on Zoom all the time and then seeing them in person, maybe at a rally or an event or this past Juneteenth March, and going, oh my God, you exist as flesh and blood.
And sometimes at a different height than perhaps you expected, right? I've had that where it's like, wait, you're 6'4"? I had no idea. Or you're 5'4"? Like, yeah, so we're certainly getting used to all of that. And so, town meeting is quite a bit of work really throughout the year, with maybe a little bit of break in the summer and a little bit of break December, January. Town meeting sort of ramps up, and then it's sort of all hands on deck for some number of days. Was this your first town meeting this May?
Yeah, it was my first town meeting. It's the first time I attended a town meeting. It was interesting. It was, obviously the Zoom format different than in-person town meetings. So I have yet to experience one of those. It's interesting to see the different array of viewpoints in town. Brookline has a reputation of being a progressive town, and certainly there are a lot of folks who are progressive, and there are a lot of folks but there are a lot of different political viewpoints too. It's not a monolithic town.
And do you feel like it wasn't long enough? You feel like it needed another couple of nights?
I think when Kate Poverman sent out a message that we would be meeting like every day for 2 weeks so that we would make that June 15th deadline, I was like, what? It was intense. And there were some complaints, obviously. I think there are more warrant articles, I think, being filed, and there are different perspectives that are being vocal, and that takes time. And you have 240 people, even if a fraction of them want to say their piece, that's going to be a lot of time. And so, we do have to think about, is this sustainable? Is this level of volunteerism and all these resources, is it going to be sustainable in the long term? And that's certainly a conversation that's happening in town. Somebody pointed out there are 17 state capitals that have smaller populations than Brookline.
Yeah, I don't know if that's sort of a strange and not necessarily helpful statistic. I think that look, like it was so for the folks who don't know, it was an 8-night town meeting, which was very much on the long side.
Oh, yeah, I guess.
But we debated warrant article 18 for one night and then another 2 nights after that. So if we hadn't done that, that gets you down to 6, right? Which is a lot less than 8. I think that virtual town meetings run more slowly than in-person town meetings for the same topic. And so my instinct is that the town meeting that we had, that was 8 nights, right? If we were in person, I don't think that, maybe reconsideration doesn't happen. And then I think you shave off another 2 nights just in terms of the inefficiencies of, can you hear me now? Is my Zoom on? I can't take it off of mute. And then the voting, like remember in-person voting, show of hands takes 4 seconds, but in Zoom it takes 40 seconds times every single time we have a motion. So I don't know. I think that when we get back to in-person, it'll move a little bit more quickly than it does online, but we'll see. It's one of the things we'll find out, I think sooner or later, and I'm not sure which it will be. But any other reactions about town meeting? Any surprises? Was there anything about it that you didn't expect, that either you thought was terrible or that you found inspiring?
I would say it is inspiring to see so many people active. On the other hand, I could see there were some folks who, I mean, this one didn't happen during town meeting, it happened on the infamous listserv, but that there were some folks who had been around and weren't happy that there were all these young new whippersnappers coming in and, expressing their viewpoints, which was kind of funny because a lot of us who are new, but we're actually not all that young. It was just, we hadn't been active before. And so, if more people are active, we're going to get more different viewpoints too. Yeah.
That's right. And I think that while longer town meetings can grind and it's hard because we have other responsibilities, at the same time, I think both there's some sort of catharsis to the town sort of airing its grievances, right? Saying out loud things that are worth it, but also hearing from more viewpoints allows us a better chance at least starting to understand folks who have a different experience in the same town and possibly even making better decisions. But I don't know. I'm a fan of town meeting. I always have been. We'll see. I certainly miss the cookies. In person, we get cookies and coffee. At home, you have to provide your own. So do you have any? So the reimagining committee is wrapped up, or do you still have more work to do?
The reimagining task force has concluded its work. So that is now over, which not only is gratifying in terms of achieving results, but also because it was Friday mornings at 8 a.m. So I am glad we no longer have, I am not a morning person.
And so are you shopping for a new committee to spend some time on, or you think you're going to just be satisfied with advisory and town meeting and BAAFN and advocating for consumers nationwide, and being a mom?
So I'm not shopping for another committee. Advisory is and town meeting is a full plate, and then doing BAAFN and having a day job too. I would encourage other Asian Americans, if any of them are watching this, to also get active, because the other thing that struck me is there's only a handful of us in town meeting. 240 town meeting members. We are 1 in 6 residents, and we certainly were not there were not 40 Asian Americans. I think maybe 4 or 5 at most. So we're definitely underrepresented in all the levers of power in town.
Yeah, no question about that. Town meeting actually, like its diversity on gender is spot on. The percentage of African-American town meeting members is almost exactly spot on town. but no question, Asians are dramatically underrepresented. Part of the story is the number of Asians who are not U.S. citizens and therefore ineligible to vote or to serve on town meeting as a percentage is higher than other ethnic groups, but that's nowhere near the whole story, right? There's tremendous room for more participation, and that means finding candidates, and that means electing them, and that means welcoming them and mentoring them, right? There's a lot of steps there. I have no doubt that you will inspire others, starting with the millions of people watching this television show, right?
Absolutely.
Here on Brookline Interaction Group, which is where we are and where we'll end. We're out of time. Chi Wu, a woman who wears many hats in town, and we're glad you do, because your work is so important. Thanks for coming on Brookline Interactive Group today, and I look forward to getting a cup of coffee with you again soon.
Thanks, Tommy, for having me, and look forward to that coffee and maybe a cookie with it.
That sounds great. We'll see you soon.